Hi everyone, it's me again. Today I'm going to read you chapter 6 of my book, Wildmoore, Wrath of Zane. I hope you enjoy. Chapter 6, A New Kind of Valor. Zane sat in his throne room all night and had to figure out a good strategy to take down Wildmoore's savior, or better yet, draw her out so he could kill her himself. Thankfully, he thought of a way. So he called out, "Moryse?" Moryse rushed into the palace's conference room and asked, "Yes, my liege? I have a little errand for you to run," Zane said with a sinister grin on his face. If he was going to draw out the alleged savior, this would be the only way to do it. A warm sunlight shone through the land of Wildmoore, and a subtle ray of the sun made Natalie flutter her eyes open. She stretched her arms and let out a yawn. Forthwind has woken up as well, causing him to stand on his 4 feet and stretch like a dog before releasing a yawn. Natalie chuckled in amusement to see a dragon yawn and stretch like all the dogs she had seen in her hometown. "Nothing like a peaceful rest and a wonderful morning," Forthwind said after he finished stretching. Natalie chuckled and stood up on her feet, but noticed that she and Forthwind were the only ones in the camp. Concerned, she asked Forthwind, "Where did they go?" "They must have gone to meet with the forest knights on the other side of Forest Grove," Forthwind answered. Natalie felt relieved, but wondered how the Forest Knights would react to her arrival in this world. Considering she came from what Amelia calls human Earth, then there's no doubt that the Forest Knights wouldn't be so quick to pick a fight, like when Madeline did to her in Forthwind yesterday. Suddenly, howls from a distance sounded, and a man shouted, "Search for the wolf pup!" Confused, Natalie asked, "What's happening?" Forthwind replied, already knowing what this could mean. A wolf pup is stolen from the Forest Knights, one of their wolves' pups. No doubt one of the dark warlocks has done it overnight. Not knowing what was about to come over her, Natalie exclaimed, throwing her book bag over her shoulder, "We need to find that wolf pup. See where those Sith Lords took it." Forthwind positioned his legs so Natalie could climb on his back before he asked in confusion, "What is a Sith?" "It's not important. Let's go," Natalie shouted urgently. And after taking a few steps back, Forthwind began to run, and with one jump, he flapped his wings so hard that the leaves from the trees were falling off. Forthwind, with Natalie on his back, flew overhead, and Natalie looked down for any sign of the wolf pup. Suddenly, a small voice from below shouted, "Help! Someone, help!" Natalie looked down and saw a rushing river, and it was carrying a terrified wolf pup with black and light gray fur. The wolf was able to jump onto a large rock in the middle of the river, but froze as the river's current started to get stronger. "Down there, at the riverbank," Natalie said, and Forthwind immediately flew down to the other side of the river. There were other large rocks that would function as a bridge to get to the wolf pup, but with the river's current still growing at a very rapid pace, both Forthwind and Natalie were on borrowed time. Natalie hopped off of her guardian dragon's back and placed her book back nearby before stating, "I'm going to hop on those rocks and try to get him to jump towards me." Stunned and appalled by her suggestion, Forthwind asked, "Are you mad?" "You have a better idea?" Natalie retorted back. Perhaps waiting until the forest warriors and knights get here and rescue the wolf uh, and rescue the pup will be a much better idea, Forthwind argued. We don't have time. I'm going. You stay here, Natalie said, and with all her strength, jumped to the nearby rock. Forthwind knew that this girl was going to be stubborn, and while he did previously think of her as a helpless human Earth inhabitant with no knowledge of the world, but then quickly turned into a completely different person. Natalie was careful with every jump on the riverbank rocks, until she finally jumped on the last rock, that is, one rock away from where the wolf pup was. The wolf pup frightfully turned to see Natalie in view. Immediately thinking she was a dangerous figure, he snarled, "Get away!" Natalie understood the wolf pup was scared, but she replied to him with a reassuring tone in her voice. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help you get you back to your parents." "But you're not from here," the wolf pup shouted. "I know, I'm not from here, but I promise I'm a good guy. Jump into my arms, and both my dragon and I will take you to your parents. Trust me." Natalie shouted back with her arms open wide. The wolf pup looked hesitant to jump into the strange girl's arms, but realized that she didn't seem so harmful, and she genuinely wanted to help him. So with all the courage he could muster, the young wolf pup leapt off from his rock and safely landed in Natalie's arms, where she quickly wrapped her arms around the small pup. "Okay, hold on tight. We're gonna jump across, and my dragon can take us to your parents," Natalie assured. The wolf pup nodded before Natalie jumped her way back. But on the second to last of the rocks, Natalie almost lost her balance, causing Forthwind to tense at the sight of seeing his person almost fall into the rushing water herself. So he warned her, "Be careful over there." Natalie gave him a nod, assuring him that she was careful while holding onto the wolf pup for dear life. Natalie hopped onto the last rock and was now 1 foot away from the shoreline of the riverbank. She would feel the wolf pup trembling in her arms, scared during this whole ordeal he had to suffer. Natalie gently stroked his fur for reassurance before making one last valiant jump and reaching the shore. Once on the shore, she rushed to Forthwind and hopped onto his back before she replied, "Okay, Forthwind, let's find the pup's parents and both the fort's knights and warriors. They need to know what happened." Forthwind leapt up and flapped his wings, flying upward towards the sky. The wolf pup frightfully looked down and cowered in Natalie's arms. Natalie saw how scared the little pup looked, so she suddenly said, "It's okay. I got you." Suddenly, an arrow shot a few inches past Forthwind, causing him to let out a yelp, and Natalie, using one arm to grab a tuft of Forthwind's fur gently but firmly, while using another to hold onto the wolf pup in the best of her ability. Natalie shouted, "What the heck was that?" "The forest warriors are opening fire. We need to land," Forthwind called out. "All right, find a clear spot for us to land," Natalie said as Forthwind was able to find a clearing in the forest where the guardian dragon clumsily landed. Natalie nearly lost her balance, and the wolf pup almost slipped out of her grasp, but managed to find her balance again, preventing the wolf pup from falling out of her arms. Natalie let out a sigh and said to Forthwind, "No offense, Forthwind, but meteorites made softer impacts than you." Forthwind looked up at Natalie with annoyance and said, "Well, pardon me for not being too careful." "Barlow? Barlow!" a voice shouted. The wolf pup's ears perked up, and he shouted, "Papa?" Suddenly, a wolf with luxurious silver fur trotted to the clearing and spotted the wolf pup in Natalie's arms. Natalie hopped off of Forthwind's back and placed the wolf pup on the ground, which immediately darted towards his father. "Oh, my son, thank Arturio. You're all right," the wolf pup said. The wolf said with a relieved tone, giving his son a gentle nudge with his nose. The forest warriors, led by Madeline and Amelia, all jogged to the clearing and followed by the valiant group of women were the forest knights. All men wore incredibly unique red metal armor, while all were carrying steel swords with leather-bounded handles, carried in their leathered holsters, and silver and gold shields with a grand tree symbol in the center. Each of the forest knights has a wolf companion, and whereas they do travel in packs like mundane wolves from Natalie's world, they are also loyal to their masters and are sworn to protect the forest knights. The men threatened to put their hands on their swords when they saw Natalie and Forthwind. Amelia, however, intervened and said, "Gentlemen, it's all right. The girl will not cause harm. She's the one we have talked about." One forest knight, who was around Madeline's age, with brunette hair and gray eyes, asked in near disbelief, "She's the girl from the human Earth?" Amelia turned back at Natalie and said, Sorry. Amelia turned back to him and said, "Yes, Ackerley, she's the one from human Earth." An older forest knight with green brunette hair and green eyes slowly walked toward the girl with a curious gaze before he asked, "What is your name, child?" "Natalie Vero, middle school student of 2020. Natalie answered with a nervous tone in her voice. She thought meeting the forest warriors was already intimidating enough. So she felt very apprehensive about these large armored men. Ackerley approached the girl as well and asked, "What is your business in our world?" Natalie sighed and said, "I have no business here, and before you throw a hissy fit about they who shall not be named, I'm not one of them." A female wolf with snow-white fur snarled, "Are you certain that you're not in league with those men who murdered the innocent as well as butchered half of the animals?" Ackerley turned to the white wolf and said, "Maria, please, let the girl explain herself." Natalie then explained, "I came here by accident. I was running away from a bully that tried to take my mother's necklace away from me, and I found a cave to hide in. I must have drifted off because the next thing I know, I ended up here." Rhea, the white wolf, shouted, "Sorcery! It must be the dark warlock summoning her to destroy us." The silver wolf snapped, "Rhea, enough. The girl just saved my son's life. There is no reason to view her as a threat. She may not be from here, but it is quite clear that she meant no harm." The older knight nodded in agreement and said, "Rolf is right. The girl is not in league with the warlocks, but I believe it is best if we camp with the warriors so we can get to know this young lady a bit better." "Are you certain, Thomas?" Ackerley asked, stepping forward. Thomas, the older knight, replied. Yes, I say we all head to Paulwood village to camp out there. The warriors, the dragon, and this young traveler will be joining us. Let's go. Taking the older man's word, the warriors, his men, Forthwind, and Natalie followed him in the direction of Paulwood village. Rolf looked at the young girl with a soft look in his piercing golden eyes. He wasn't so sure why, but there was something familiar about that girl's face, as if he had seen her before. However, he immediately shook it off, and just felt grateful that she and her dragon were able to rescue his son from the riverbank. Meanwhile, back in the Shadowy Rock Palace, Moryse returned to the palace out of breath. Zane, already expecting his mission to be a success, turned to Moryse and asked with a sinister smile on his face, "Is the wolf pup dead?" Moryse ruefully shook his head and said, "No, the girl and her dragon rescued it." Zane's sinister smile faded, and he saw, "What?" The girl and her dragon were able to rescue the wolf pup before the river could sweep that furball away. None of the warriors or knights were able to get there. Instead, the girl did, Moryse said. Zane's nostrils flared in anger. Why is this girl getting in the way of my plans? I'm so sorry, sir, Moryse said with an apologetic tone in his voice. Zane replied, trying to keep his calm. It's all right, Moryse. We just need to come up with something better. And this time, we will not let that child intervene again. Paulwood village was once a lively town filled with children playing games, men spending time together at the Hawk Feather Tavern for celebratory drinks, women happily singing to their newborn children, and every spring day, they would have their annual Golden Rose Festival, where they would have a little market, games for children, and a jousting tournament performed by the Forest Knights. Now, the village was in a perpetual gloomy state. Instead of having celebratory drinks, men only went to the tavern to drink their sorrows away. Children only sat in the front yards of their cottages, only using a stick to draw on the door with somber looks. And although women still had some of their children, others were hanging on to their clothes and baby blankets, as the innocent lives were lost from the war 13 years ago. As for the festival, it hasn't been held since the attack happened, and no one is in the mood to have fun or celebrate. Natalie noticed this as she saw all the forlorn looks on the villagers' faces, and it was the same look she would often have whenever she thought about her mother. Suddenly, some of the looks of the villagers changed when they noticed Natalie, looking at her with a peculiarity. Natalie asked Amelia, who stood beside her, "Why is everyone staring?" Amelia replied with an amused grin, "Probably because to them, you are wearing very strange clothes." Barlow chimed in with a happy wag in his tail. "They think you look quite funny." Natalie couldn't help but chuckle. However, they were right because what she was wearing was nowhere near appropriate for this world. So no wonder people were looking at her strangely. "You mustn't worry about their stares, young lady. They just never met a girl like you before. Nothing to be concerned about," Thomas assured her as he, his men, and the forest warriors all began to settle in nearby cottages custom made for them to stay. Natalie knew that aside from Forest Grove, Paulwood was also where the Forest Knights and the Forest Warriors' second home, as they grew up here as children. But by the looks of it, this home was still frozen and somber from the war 13 years ago. Alright, that's chapter 6. Stay tuned for chapter 7. My apologies for my cat in the background causing such a ruckus, and apologies for any mistakes I made while reading. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoy, and I'll see you next chapter. Bye!